The Amazon rainforest is a world of its own. It is a vast green ocean of trees. Sunlight struggles to reach the forest floor. Down here, everything is damp and dark. The air is thick. It is heavy with the smell of wet earth and decaying leaves. Every sound seems amplified. A snapped twig sounds like a gunshot. A distant call could be a friend or a foe. This place is not for the weak. It is a brutal, unforgiving environment. It tests every living thing, every single day, pushing them to their absolute limits. Survival here is a full-time job with no holidays. Vines as thick as a man's arm hang down from the canopy. They look like giant snakes, ready to drop on unsuspecting prey. The ground is a maze of tangled roots and slick mud. It can swallow you whole if you are not careful. Poisonous frogs with skin like jewels sit on broad leaves. They are beautiful but deadly. Their bright colors are a warning. Stay away. In the shadows, unseen eyes are always watching. Jaguars, anacondas and caimans lurk in the water and the undergrowth. This jungle is a masterpiece of nature, but it is a dangerous masterpiece. Every step is a gamble. The humidity is relentless. It sticks to your skin like a second layer. Sweat does not cool you down here, it just makes you wetter. The air is alive with the buzz of insects. Mosquitoes swarm in clouds, hungry for blood. They can carry diseases that will take a grown man down in days. The jungle is a symphony of noises. The chatter of monkeys, the screech of parrots, and the constant hum of a million insects create a wall of sound. It is a place of incredible beauty and incredible danger. You have to respect it or it will swallow you whole. This is a world where the rules are simple. Hunt or be hunted, eat or be eaten. There is no room for mistakes. A single wrong turn can lead you into the territory of a predator. A moment of distraction can be your last. The Amazon does not care about your plans or your fears. It is ancient and powerful. It has its own rhythm, its own pulse. To survive, you must learn to listen to that pulse. You must become part of the jungle, moving with its flow, understanding its secrets. It is the ultimate survival challenge, a true test of spirit and strength. Out of the deep shadows, a lone wolf emerged. He was not native to this dense, wet world, a stray pushed by forces unknown into this green labyrinth. His fur was a patchwork of grey and black, matted with mud and burrs from the unforgiving undergrowth. His ribs showed faintly beneath his coat, a clear sign of his constant gnawing hunger. This wolf was a ghost, a silent predator moving through a world that was not his own. His eyes, a piercing shade of amber, missed nothing. They scanned the jungle with an intensity that burned with desperation and a cold, hard determination. He was alone, and being alone meant he had to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than anything else out here. His name was hunger. It was the only thing that drove him forward now. The last proper meal was a memory, a faint taste on his tongue from days ago. Now every rustle in the leaves, every scent on the wind was a potential meal. He moved with a practiced silence that was truly remarkable. His paws barely made a sound on the damp earth. He was a master of stealth, a skill honed by years of hunting. In his old home he had been part of a pack, a unit that worked together. Here he was a solitary hunter, relying only on his own senses and his own strength. The jungle had taught him new, hard lessons. The wolf lowered his head, his nose just inches from the ground. He was following a scent. It was a faint trail, but it was there. It was the smell of something large, something powerful. His instinct screamed at him. This was a dangerous prey, a prey that could fight back, but his hunger was a bigger danger. It was a fire in his belly that ignored caution. He had to eat. It was the simple, brutal law of his existence. He continued to follow the trail, his body low to the ground, a silent, grey shadow slipping between the massive trunks of the jungle trees. He was a force of pure will, a predator on a mission. He paused behind a thick curtain of hanging moss. His ears swiveled, catching the faint sound of splashing water up ahead. He could smell it more clearly now, the rich, earthy scent of a large animal. His muscles tensed, coiling like springs. Every fibre of his being was focused on the hunt. This was the moment he lived for. The stalk, the chase, the final confrontation. It was a dance as old as time itself. The wolf took a deep, silent breath, the damp jungle air filling his lungs. He was ready. The hunter was closing in on his target, and nothing in the world could stop him now. In a small clearing where a muddy stream pooled into a shallow wallow stood the buffalo. He was a magnificent beast, a true giant of the Amazon. His hide was the color of dark, rich mud, and it was caked in a thick layer of it. The mud was his armor. It protected him from the biting insects and the scorching sun. It also hid the countless scars that crisscrossed his body. These were not just scratches, they were deep marks, telling stories of battles fought and won. Each scar was a medal, a testament to his strength and his will to survive in this brutal land. He was an old warrior, a veteran of the jungle's endless wars. His horns were incredible. They were thick and curved, worn smooth in some places and chipped in others. They were not for show. They were weapons, sharpened by years of clashing with rivals and fending off predators. One horn had a jagged tip, broken off in a fight long ago. It only made him look more formidable, more dangerous. He stood knee-deep in the cool mud, his massive head lowered as he drank. His eyes, small and dark, were not sleepy. They were watchful, constantly scanning his surroundings. He had survived this long by never letting his guard down, not even for a moment. This buffalo knew the jungle's secrets. He knew which plants were safe to eat and which muddy pools were deep enough to offer relief from the heat. He knew the sounds of danger. He could tell the difference between the warning call of a monkey and the hunting cry of a jaguar. Experience was his greatest weapon. He had seen countless predators try their luck against him. Young, arrogant jaguars had learned painful lessons from his powerful horns and his thundering hooves. He was a force of nature, as much a part of the Amazon as the ancient trees and the flowing river. He was a survivor. As he lifted his head, water and mud dripping from his chin, he froze. A scent had reached him. It was unfamiliar, a predator's scent, but not one he knew well. It was the scent of the wolf. His ears swiveled, pinpointing the direction. His massive body tensed. The lazy peace of the clearing was gone in an instant. It was replaced by a heavy electric tension. The old warrior was not afraid. He was ready. He let out a low, rumbling snort, a deep sound that was a clear challenge. He planted his feet firmly in the mud, a mountain of muscle and experience, prepared to face whatever was coming for him. This was not just another hunt, it was something more. It was a clash of two worlds, a battle between two incredible survivors. On one side was the wolf. He was driven by pure, raw instinct. His mind was a sharp, focused tool, honed for one purpose, to kill and to eat. He represented the relentless forward motion of the predator. He was hunger given form, a creature of speed, stealth, and lethal precision. His survival depended on his ability to take life. For him, this was a simple equation. Success meant a full belly and another day of life. Failure meant weakness, starvation, and eventually death. He was the embodiment of the hunter's cold logic. On the other side was the buffalo. He was a fortress of experience. He was the survivor, the one who had endured. His strength was not just in his massive size and his powerful horns, it was in his memory. He remembered the sting of a jaguar's claws. He remembered the feeling of a predator's failed attack. He had learned from every fight, every close call. His instincts were tempered by a lifetime of knowledge. He knew when to stand his ground and when to charge. He knew how to use his weight and his environment to his advantage. He represented the unyielding will to live, the power of endurance. The confrontation was a war between two different philosophies of survival. The wolf's strategy was one of attack, find a weakness, exploit it, and press the advantage until the end. He was a creature of action, of quick, decisive movements. The buffalo's strategy was one of defense and calculated response. Stand firm, absorb the attack, and wait for the perfect moment to strike back with overwhelming force. He was a creature of patience, of immovable strength. It was the irresistible force meeting the immovable object played out in a muddy clearing deep in the Amazon. The air between them crackled with unspoken meaning. This was more than predator versus prey. It was a test of what it takes to survive in the world's most extreme environment. Was it the sharp, hungry instinct of the hunter, or was it the deep, battle-hardened wisdom of the survivor? The wolf needed this kill to live. The buffalo needed to win this fight to continue his long life. For both, the stakes were absolute. There was no room for second place. In the heart of the jungle, this ancient drama was about to unfold, a pure and honest test of power and will. The silence in the clearing was heavy. It was a physical weight pressing down on the damp earth. The only sounds were the drip of water from the leaves and the distant hum of insects. The wolf remained hidden, a grey phantom in the green shadows. He was studying his opponent, his amber eyes tracing the powerful lines of the buffalo's body. He saw the thick neck, the massive shoulders, and the deadly horns. He also saw the old scars, the signs of past battles. His instincts told him this was no easy prey. This was a fortress. But his hunger was a fire that burned away all fear, leaving only a cold, calculated need. The buffalo did not move. He stood like a statue carved from rock and mud. His stillness was not a sign of peace, it was a sign of absolute readiness. He knew the predator was there, watching him. He could feel its eyes on him. He let out another low snort, a puff of hot air misting in the cool clearing. It was a challenge, a declaration. "I'm here, I am not running. If you want to fight, you have found one." His massive head was held high, his horns pointed slightly forward. He was daring the wolf to make the first move, confidence in his ability to meet any attack. Slowly, deliberately, the wolf broke cover. He did not rush. He slunk out of the shadows, his body low to the ground, his belly almost brushing the wet leaves. His movements were fluid, like water flowing over rocks. He began to circle the clearing, keeping a respectful distance from the buffalo. This was a test. He was probing for a weakness, looking for an opening, a moment of distraction. His eyes never left the buffalo. He was a coiled spring, every muscle tense, ready to explode into action at the slightest opportunity. The dance had begun. The buffalo watched the wolf's circling movement without turning his head. He simply pivoted on his powerful legs, keeping his horned front always facing the threat. He was a living turret, a defensive bastion that offered no easy angle of attack. He refused to be flustered. He refused to be intimidated. His immense calm was its own form of weapon. It told the wolf that this old warrior would not be panicked into making a foolish mistake. The tension stretched tighter and tighter, like a bowstring being pulled back. The first move had been made, and the jungle held its breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion of violence. The wolf decided the time for waiting was over. With a speed that was honestly shocking, he darted in. He was not aiming for the head or the thick-hided body. He was too smart for that. He feinted to the left, then lunged to the right, aiming for the buffalo's rear leg. It was a classic wolf tactic: hamstring the prey, make it unable to run, unable to turn, make it helpless. His claws scrabbled for a hold on the muddy hide, his teeth bared, ready to sink into the powerful muscle of the buffalo's leg. It was a calculated risk, a lightning-fast strike designed to cripple his massive opponent before the real fight could even begin. But the buffalo was not caught by surprise. The old warrior had faced this tactic before. As the wolf lunged, the buffalo responded with incredible agility for such a large animal. He did not try to run. He pivoted on his front legs, swinging his massive rear end around with immense force. It was a defensive move that was also a powerful attack. The wolf, committed to his lunge, was met not with a fleshy leg but with a solid wall of bone and muscle. The impact sent the wolf tumbling sideways, rolling through the mud and wet leaves. He had failed to land his first blow. The wolf scrambled to his feet instantly, shaking the mud from his fur. There was no sign of pain or discouragement, only a renewed, colder focus. He had tested the buffalo's defenses and found them strong. Now he knew this would not be a quick fight. This would be a war of attrition. He began to circle again, but this time his movements were different. They were more erratic, more unpredictable. He would dart in close, then retreat just as quickly, trying to unnerve the old bull, trying to make him expend precious energy. He was a blur of grey fur and relentless motion. The buffalo stood his ground in the center of the clearing. He refused to chase the dancing shadow. He knew that was what the wolf wanted. He conserved his energy, his massive chest heaving with steady, powerful breaths. He let the wolf waste its strength. His eyes followed the predator's every move, his head turning slowly, his horns always ready. He was a patient mountain, waiting for the frantic storm to tire itself out. The initial clash was over. No blood had been drawn, but the lines of battle were now clear. It was the wolf's speed against the buffalo's stamina, claws against horns. The clearing was no longer quiet. It was filled with the sounds of the struggle. The wolf's low growl was a constant, threatening rumble. It was the sound of pure predatory intent, a promise of the violence he intended to unleash. It echoed through the trees, a chilling noise that made the smaller creatures of the jungle fall silent. Every time he feinted or lunged, the growl would rise in pitch, becoming a sharp, vicious snarl. It was the sound of a killer at work, focused and deadly. The sound was a weapon itself, designed to intimidate and to create fear. The buffalo answered with sounds of his own. His were deeper, more powerful. The heavy stamp of his hooves sent shockwaves through the soft ground. Each stomp was a declaration of his power, a warning of the crushing force he could deliver. He snorted loudly, blowing mud and water from his nostrils. These were not sounds of fear. They were sounds of defiance, of anger. They were the sounds of an immovable object pushing back against the force that was trying to move it. The air vibrated with the deep, guttural noises coming from his massive chest, a symphony of raw, untamed power. The struggle was a noisy dance. There was the slick, sucking sound of the buffalo's hooves pulling free from the deep mud. There was the frantic, scrabbling sound of the wolf's claws digging into the earth as he changed direction, kicking up sprays of dirt and leaves. A branch snapped loudly as the buffalo shifted his weight. The wolf's panting breath became audible, a sign of the incredible energy he was expending. These sounds told the story of the battle. They painted a picture of speed versus power, of desperation versus defiance, a primal conflict in the heart of the wild. The tension was a sound in itself. It was the silence between the growls and the stomps. It was the moment when both animals were still, gathering their strength for the next clash. In those moments of quiet, the jungle seemed to be listening. The air was thick with anticipation. You could almost hear the pounding heart of the wolf and the slow, steady beat of the buffaloes. It was a raw, visceral experience. The sounds of the fight were the sounds of life and death, a brutal and honest conversation between two creatures locked in a battle for survival. The sun began to dip lower in the sky and long shadows stretched across the muddy clearing. The fight had been going on for what felt like an eternity. It had become more than a physical battle. It was now a test of wills. The wolf was visibly tiring. His grey coat was slick with sweat and mud. His panting was heavier now, his movements a little less sharp than before. The relentless circling, the explosive lunges, the constant tension, it was all taking a toll on his body, but his eyes still burned with that same cold fire. His hunger and his killer instinct would not let him give up. He would fight until his last breath. The buffalo was also feeling the strain. While he had not moved as much, the constant state of high alert was draining. His massive sides heaved, and flecks of foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. He was a fortress, but even a fortress can be worn down by a persistent siege. He had deflected dozens of attacks, each one requiring a burst of energy and focus. The old warrior was digging deep, drawing on reserves of stamina built up over a lifetime of survival. His will was as strong as his horns. He would not fall. He would not give the predator the satisfaction. The wolf changed his tactics again. He stopped the wide circling and began a series of direct head-on feints. He would charge straight at the buffalo's head, only to veer away at the last possible second. He was trying to force a mistake, to make the buffalo overcommit to a charge. He was testing the old warrior's nerve, pushing the psychological battle to its limits. It was a dangerous game. A single miscalculation, a fraction of a second too slow, and he would be impaled on the buffalo's deadly horns. It was a testament to his incredible courage and his desperate hunger. The buffalo stood firm against this new assault. He held his ground, his head low, his horns a formidable barrier. He refused to be baited. He tracked the wolf's charges with his weary eyes, a low growl rumbling in his chest. He was a king in his own territory, and he would not be dethroned by this grey ghost. The clearing had become an arena for a battle of pure spirit. Who would break first, the desperate, hungry predator or the proud, unyielding survivor? The will to kill versus the will to live. It was the ultimate contest, and it was far from over. As dusk settled over the Amazon, a deep purple haze filtered through the canopy. The sounds of the day creatures faded, replaced by the chirps and calls of the things that hunt in the night. In the muddy clearing, the two warriors were locked in their stalemate. The wolf, a phantom of exhaustion, stood panting, his muscles trembling with effort. The buffalo, a mountain of defiance, remained planted in the mud, his great head bowed slightly from the weight of the long battle. Neither had landed a decisive blow. Neither was willing to admit defeat. The ground between them was torn up, a testament to the ferocity of their struggle. This is the law of the Amazon. It is a world of raw power and unending struggle. There are no easy victories here. Every meal is earned through risk and effort. Every day of life is a battle won. The wolf and the buffalo were not just two animals fighting, they were symbols of the jungle itself. They were the hunter and the hunted, the attacker and the defender, two sides of the same unbroken circle of life and death. In this place, strength is measured in many ways. It is the speed and cunning of the wolf. It is also the endurance and experience of the buffalo. The outcome of this epic showdown remained uncertain. Who would win? Would the wolf's relentless hunger finally find a weakness in the old warrior's defenses? Or would the buffalo's incredible stamina outlast the predator's energy, forcing him to retreat into the shadows, defeated and still hungry? Perhaps the fight would be interrupted by another of the jungle's dangers, a silent jaguar, or a massive anaconda drawn by the sounds of conflict. In the Amazon, the fight is never truly over. The threats are always present. Nothing is certain in the wilderness. Survival is a question that is asked every minute of every day, and the answer is always written in the mud and the blood. The story of the lone wolf and the battle-scarred buffalo is not about a winner and a loser. It is about the struggle itself. It is a powerful reminder that in the wild, life is raw, it is brutal, and it is magnificent. The only guarantee is that the sun will set and the jungle will continue its ancient, dangerous dance. And only the strongest, the smartest, and the luckiest will see the dawn.